Today we are going to talk about a brand new game experience, huge major updates, and as well as some really cool new features that we're kind of teasing there with some of those screenshots. You silly, silly goose.
So we now have a, yeah, there's the sign that he just held up for us. That's Grant's hand.
Holy crap, it's the legendary MentalMars!
Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to another rousing rendition of the official Gearbox software stream. I am your host, new media manager, Elisa Rockdock. I am joined by community coordinator, GBX Mayor.
Hey, what's up?
And to my illustrious right, to my regal right, I have the one, the only, Randy Varnell, creative director of Battleborn.
I had no idea he was sitting there.
I didn't know. It's a completely incognito in this destroyed minion costume.
So, excellent.
Yeah, this is my new cosplay. I'm a destroyed minion because that's how some days that's how I wake up and feel. It's part of getting older, right?
Aww.
Lots of parts and they're scattered everywhere. We won't explore that train of thought any further.
Nope.
Let's go.
We are happy to have you here. Are you adequately gummy beared, good sir?
I have started on gummy bears, and we've got this great pack of gummy bears right here. Also, thanks to my good friends, the Dunk Squad, I have a gummy bear shaped gummy bear dispenser. It's not been opened yet, but this is my emergency backup gummy bear supply, just in case we ever run out and I'm feeling a little low on gummy bear quotient. I do have a little bit there to keep me going.
Yes, and we are also joined by special guests Blaine and Toby, as well as Raina's pistol. And we have a lot of special guests here because, up to and including Blaine, because some of you may know that we, I don't know, had a little bit of an update.
We did a thing
over the last 24 hours, and
small patch.
A smidge, and there are some changes to the core game experience that are very important and very, very exciting, and we can't wait to share them with you, and let's do that.
Yeah, in fact, just to talk about what Elisa's talking about, the changes in this update are things that we as a Battleborn team, some of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about, I'll spoil a little bit about the free trial. I'm sure all of you have heard, big news for us today. Some of the things the Battleborn team has wanted for literally almost 5 years now, since the very beginning of the project. There have been a lot of kind of hurdles to overcome getting to here, both technically and with the marketplace and everything. But we are here now and have a lot of exciting news, and want to talk you through all of the details of how that works and what's going on with that, what you can experience, what veteran players will experience now, what new players will experience. There's a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to go over some patch notes. We're going to go over some new features. We're going to talk a little bit about the next upcoming few weeks of Battleborn, months of Battleborn.
Excited about that.
Yeah, to talk about what's happening. So let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go ahead.
Dive in, maybe.
Ooh, you said the thing.
I think I'm contractually required to say deep dive once a stream.
Of course. So, as we mentioned before, today we are going to talk about a brand new game experience, huge major updates, and as well as some really cool new features that we're kind of teasing there with some of those screenshots.
That's right, Flair!
But we're going to get to that. First and foremost, we are now introducing the
Battleborn free trial!
Yay!
So this has been probably one of the most requested things that we've had from the community for the last year, and I will just, I think you guys know, I mean, we kind of started teasing this in some ways, and there were some tweets and stuff last fall, and there have been a lot of speculations. And for those of you who interact with me on Twitter and the forums and other places, you know that I often I come right up to the line of what I can say, because I don't want Elisa to actually show up in my office and destroy me.
Yep.
Sorry, Raina. Because she will absolutely kill me if I do. But this has been something that we've agreed with you guys. We've always wanted the free trial out in people's hands. Look, we've heard from so many people last year. Battleborn is a game that has been often overlooked. And what we've seen on Reddit and our forums and on social media is throughout the year last year, a lot of people would pick up Battleborn in various places, and we've seen post after post after post of like, oh my gosh, this game is great, but I heard that it wasn't this good. Why was not everybody playing this? So And then that would inevitably be followed up by like, well, they should put it on a free trial so people get a chance. So here it is, finally here to kick off your summer, to kick off our great festivities this year. The Battleborn free trial is here. So I think we're going to walk through some of the details of that, right?
So what we're going to show you now is kind of the new trial experience, what it is that people see when they're kind of getting into Battleborn for the first time ever. Let's see if we can have a little bit of a looky-loo at that. If our PowerPoint is a thing.
Working up. Here
There we go. All right, so this is what you're going to see. This is the Battleborn Badass Edition.
Right, so the Badass Edition means that you are a trial user. That means you've downloaded the game for free on any platform, on Xbox, on Steam, on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and the One S, and the PlayStation 4 Pro Plus. I forget all the names sometimes. But yeah, this is what's going on, and there are again a few minor changes to the menus. A couple of things we'll talk through. Of course, so here's the thing: if you are a free trial player, it is a free-to-play Battleborn multiplayer forever. I know there's been some questions already about that, about kind of the duration of the trial. Like, is it a temporary trial? Does it time out after a certain time?
Nope.
No. This really is free-to-play Battleborn for Battleborn versus mode. If you like competitive multiplayer and want to play in there, you're going to be able to play Battleborn versus multiplayer forever. The way that works is all the multiplayer modes and maps are free. We will have a weekly free rotation of 6 characters at our time from a roster of 30 characters. Throughout the weeks, we're going to rotate through all of that, but every week we'll change it up. So you always have 6 characters, which is enough to play in any of our competitive matches. If you're new to Battleborn, all of our current competitive matches are 5v5. And we want to be sure that you have, if you're the last person picking a character, that you still have 2 characters to choose from. So you still get a little bit of choice in what you want to play there at the end. Also, for trial players, there's a couple of ways that you can actually upgrade the game experience. By the way, all of your advancement, all of your leveling up on your command rank, your character rank, all of the gear that you unlock, all of that is yours forever. Even as a free trial user, you earn it, you keep it, it's all yours. But there are a couple of ways to kind of go deeper in the game if you wish. One, all of the Battleborn characters are now purchasable with our earned currency called credits in game, so you can play the game and earn characters. Or if you just have to have it right now, you can buy our platinum currency, our premium currency in the game, and you can buy all the characters for that. There's actually a couple of different tiers of character pricing in there. There's some starter characters that are kind of the easiest to get your head wrapped around characters, and they're a little less expensive.
And Randy, if I'm not mistaken, there's a sale going on?
We've got a lot of plans for that, sales and promotions, but basically every time that we have characters up in a free rotation, we're going to put some of the stuff for characters on for sale. Like we have some new packs if you guys are looking at a marketplace, especially if you're veteran users. I won't apply most of you, but trial users, if a character's up for a free rotation, I believe you're going to be able to go to the marketplace and there's a pack for that character that usually contains a character and a couple of premium skins for that character. Those are going to be at sale prices. Those are definitely good times to pick up those characters, but still a lot of ways to get those characters and buy up in there. As well, if you are a free trial player, you can fully upgrade. You can upgrade to what we call the full game. A lot of people were asking when they saw it go. We were kind of doing some of the patchwork yesterday, and on Steam, the Battleborn FGU showed up. That stands for full game upgrade, and it's part of how the trial mechanic works in Steam. Basically, from within game or from other marketplaces on either the Xbox, the PlayStation, or Steam, you'll be able to go and purchase the Battleborn full game upgrade. What that's going to do is it will unlock several things. It'll unlock 25 of the core characters. The 5 characters that were part of our DLC pack are still going to be out there. You can still earn them with credits. You can still purchase them however you want to get them, or you can still buy I believe the season pass, which contains all 5 of our operations and the characters there. So another way to get that. But that's $30, and you can get the full game upgrade for that. It gives you a bunch of stuff. It's one of those smart purchases that you can start to do the math. If you want to get a bunch of Battleborn characters all at once, the full game upgrade, I'm just telling you guys right now, is an immense value. It's a great way to get the game. It will also unlock all of the Battleborn story missions. Story missions are cool if you're more of a campaign cooperative player. jump into the story missions, play through the story of Battleborn, which I think is a pretty cool story. We were talking about that with some people on Reddit the other day. They're like, oh, that's a cool story. I'm like, I know, right? Let's jump into that. You can get in that, play those. Story missions are also a great way to farm and find gear. Gear drops like rain in the story missions. It's still a random chance to get some stuff, but a lot of gear drops there. If you really want to get in and work on your gear builds and work on improving those builds and collecting stuff for your characters, it's a great way to get that. So you get the story missions with that. The other thing that's going to happen now for free trial users is you do not have access as a free user to private play. That's private versus matches or private story matches. Right. All story content is locked until you purchase the full game. But private matches, you don't have default access to that because at some point, we've got to pay for the servers. And when you can spin up a server with just one player on there, that's kind of expensive for us. So we want to kind of balance that out. I mean, we're giving you this awesome multiplayer game for free and letting you try so much of that with the community, even 5v bots if you're more into that. You don't want to jump full on feet in the multiplayer. We'll talk more about the new experience in a minute. But if you are a free trial player and like, man, the only way I can play in a tournament is to get into these private matches, but I'm really not sure I want to go. I want to try a tournament, but I don't want a full game upgrade. We've introduced a new purchasable called the Battle Pass. And the Battle Pass is a 24-hour, I think it's in the boost category in the marketplace. You can buy a Battle Pass now, which gives you 24-hour access to the private matches and I believe unlocks a base set of 14 characters for that time because 14 characters is the amount of characters that you need to unlock to be able to play in one of the draft modes. After you have 10 characters that are picked and 2 bands on each side, that's 14. We have to be sure that you have a character to pick if you're the last one to pick there. So you're going to see that number 14 a few times in menus and some dialogues and all that. We can talk more about that later, but that's essentially how that works. So there's a lot of different ways for you as a trial player to experience the game, to kind of get your feet wet slowly, or really to dive in with the full game upgrade for Battleborn. Honestly, folks, it's an amazing chance to get your hands on a game that we at Gearbox are super proud of and really would love to get more and more and more players and more users in to take a look at this fantastic game.
Yeah, so let's sort of get into it, right? Because here we're kind of seeing what a little bit of the kind of menus have, what kind of access you have.
Yes.
But in terms of having, kind of getting your feet wet, me personally, I love playing sort of story-based things, but in terms of PvP, I'm kind of like, I don't know. So folks that are just sort of getting into it, we actually have this whole new kind of tiered experience for folks that we're going to go ahead and show off.
So you see it a little bit, we're going to work through this. So here's another thing that we really heard from the communities listening to you guys. One of the more challenging things that we've tried to balance over the last year is you have a constant stream of new players coming in. We actually have still thousands of players a day that are jumping in Battleborn brand new. And we've been tracking that, and thank you. Guys, we want to make you feel welcome. Yes. But I know it's been very hard for some of those players coming in and then matching against extremely experienced players. And Battleborn is a game that has some depth to it. It takes a little bit of time. It presents really easily like a shooter game, like, yeah, I got it, point trigger. But there's some other components to it. It takes a while to master. It's
real
a
skill
game that
there.
There's some skill and there's some learning and some knowledge you have. And we wanted to really find a way to try to help new players get their feet wet without having to fight against Dunk Squad right off the bat. Dunk Squad, who won our Choctaw tournament in February, or the Lost Heroes, who play on the PlayStation second place. Both awesome teams who, when they play as a team in Battleborn and you match against them, you will feel the full might of what a coordinated and talented team can do in Battleborn, which it's shocking. I have been on the receiving end of that a few times.
Yes, I have been.
I know how tough that can be. Yeah. So all of your feedback have culminated in this brand new player experience. I think it's a great time to do it. We're hoping to see a lot of new players with the free trial, and it's a great time to add some new queues for new players. So here's how that's going to work.
Yeah.
We've talked a couple of times, if you're new to us, we've talked a little bit of times of this concept called command rank. Command rank is your account rank. You're going to level up command rank, roughly equivalent to about 45 minutes or an hour of play if you're playing active and anywhere in Battleborn. You're going to earn experience as you play matches. Your command rank's going to go up. It's a little bit faster at the beginning than it levels out. Your command rank's going to go up, and we do several things. We unlock several things at command rank. Like, for example, we don't actually give you access to the gear system until command rank 3 because we want you to have a few matches without having to worry about how gear works. But we've even gone a lot further with that concept. Now, For you veteran users, you'll remember that in the winter update, we added a thing called the tutorial, the training, the incursion tutorial. And it was in the training menu, and you could play kind of a small incursion map, a good example of our competitive multiplayer map, and go through, and you had Nova, our shipboard AI, talk you through a lot of the features of that. Now, we've taken that a step further, and here's how it's going to work for trial players. If you are a trial player, you actually won't see the menus quite like we saw them before. You're only going to have 2 options on menus the first time you get there. You're going to see Versus Prologue and Story Prologue. You get to play through the very opening story prologue of our campaign, which is about a 25-30 minute mission. It's got some cool cinematics with it. It really introduces you to the Battleborn universe and gives you a little bit of training on playing a character, on using some different abilities, on maneuvering and moving around in the world. You play as Melka, you play through it. It's a really good introduction to the story. And after that, you'll have to upgrade to the game to get the rest of the story missions. The new thing is the Versus Prologue. The Versus Prologue is that incursion training tutorial that we had in the winter update, and it is now required to play by every new user coming in our game. It's pretty short if you want to rocket through it. I actually had to rocket through it, testing out a new account yesterday. As an experienced user, I can complete that thing in about 5 minutes if I really want to bear down and do it. But new users, I wouldn't advise you to race through it. Listen to what Nova tells you. She's going to walk you through key game elements. It's going to get you prepped for one of our more popular game modes, Incursion. But the types of things that she trains you on are actually applicable to many of our game modes, Meltdown and Capture. And she's going to talk about minions, and she's going to talk about building turrets and building other structures of the game, about capturing thralls, about fighting other enemy Battleborn, about how to take down a sentry. It's a really great introduction to the game, and you're going to get that. Now, you're going to get out of that mission, and you're going to probably be Command Rank 2. So you're going to play a couple of matches, and we're only going to open up 1 queue for you guys, and that's called the Novice versus queue. And you're going to see our walkthrough right here. Novice versus is incursion matches only. So it's all 3 of our incursion maps, the incursion game mode, which is very similar to the tutorial you just played, but versus bots, not other players. We really want you guys to have a good experience and get your feet under a character and under the game mode before you throw you in versus other players. So this is a chance to do that. The bots can be a little challenging sometimes, but generally the bots are pretty easy in this mode, and you should be able to take them, especially as a coordinated team. At Command Rank 3, we're going to open Novice Incursion. It's your first chance to match against other Battleborn players in 5v5, playing the same mode and the same maps you've just learned. 2 command ranks later, about another hour and a half later of play, you're going to get access to the Novice Quick Match. That's going to open up a queue that'll give you access to all of our game modes. You'll be able to try Meltdown and Face Off and Capture, as well as still matching and Incursion and try that. Command Rank 5, it's already said that, Novice Quick Match. Command Rank 10, we're going to drop the Novice Incursion and pull on the full bots battle. So for the first time, you're going to be able to match with the entire community, all the way up to Command Rank 150 in bots battle, but you'll be playing against bots. We hope that this is a great time for you to jump in with more experienced players, coordinate with them as a team, and allow them to tell you kind of more of the intricacies about how to build out your character, how to play in certain roles, how to work a team, and how to play certain game modes with efficiency. And then at Command Rank 20, which we expect for most players without boost, is going to be about 15 hours into the game. At Command Rank 20, we're going to open up all of the versus queues, and good luck, everybody. Now, for those of you who are wondering, can I just skip all that and play higher queues? Or if I'm a higher level player, can I jump in and play with my low level friends who are just starting? So here's how that works. We are absolutely preventing players that are higher than Command Rank 20 from entering any of the novice queues. If you're in a group and you try to queue in with the novice player, we actually say no, can't do that. We're gonna show you a message that says you don't meet the requirements, or you're too high command rank for this. You can't do it. Oh, there go the minions. It happens. They just fall apart sometimes.
Fine. This room is cursed. I don't know if you know this, but
so yeah, it is. Now, if you are a brand new player and you've got some friends that are high command rank level and you want to play with them and you want to go ahead and jump into the deep end and go ahead and enjoy that experience, you may do that. The way you're going to need to do that is you're going to need to have one of your higher command rank, one of your friends that's higher than command rank 20, start the group. You're going to want to join their group, and then they can select the queues, and it'll allow you to move into queues with them. So we are allowing, we understand how friends work, but we do want to protect especially new solo users in that experience. It really gives you a chance if you're just random queuing with people, if you're getting in there and playing around. We want you to have the best experience possible. Now, Just a couple more caveats with this before we move on to some of the other new exciting stuff. What this will mean, so for those of you who have been our loyal, awesome veteran players, are like, free trial, man, we're going to have full queues and everybody's going to be here, it's going to be awesome. Hold your roll. Going to take a few days for the new players to make it through the novice experience and to get in there. It's just really a day or two for a lot of those players. It's going to be probably this weekend before you're really going to feel that first wave of players coming in and really jumping into the main versus queues. So get in, play, get your friends that have Battleborn back in together. Jump in with your novice friends. Tell everybody, go grab the free trial. There's no excuse anymore for people not to try out this awesome game. Get them in there, try and play, and get them through that, and we'll see that rolling. We are watching those numbers, by the way, as we watch all of our queues, and we're looking at how much time it takes for people to get into queues, and being sure that all the novice queues are healthy. We might make a couple of audible adjustments. There may be a few things we do just to consolidate queues and be sure the queue times are low. So we're monitoring that, watching that, but really hoping to see a big influx of new players that are going to make all that just fly and to see some awesome things going on there. So. All right, that's the new player experience. And again, I'd love to hear your questions, thoughts, and feedback on that as we roll into it. Well, but generally, I think we're on a good path.
Yeah, I would love to check in with Mare because Mare, our community coordinator, she is knee deep in the chat right now. What is the kind of reaction been so far for folks? Any cool questions about this new experience that we got going on here?
Everyone is stoked. In fact, like when you were talking about all the different command ranks, everyone was really impressed about how well thought out that was.
Sometimes we think.
Well,
sometimes.
and
every once in a while, plug in.
I think people are overall going to appreciate it more when the new players are ready. They've trained up a bit, they've practiced, and they're ready to go. And I think that's going to make a better experience for everybody.
Good.
One thing that people have been mentioning appreciatively is the Founders Pack.
Oh, we will get to that in a second. We are going to get to that.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, I got pictures. I got pictures. I got pictures.
Yes.
So, yes. Now, one thing that you did mention was a free character rotation.
Yes.
And I kind of want to get into that a little bit more just to kind of see what all of that means. Like when it is that we're going to get new characters. What if I start playing as someone and I really, really like them and I want to keep them forever?
Sure. I think I've gone through all these details. I got a little overexcited there. I'm like half through this bag of gummy bears, so this is definitely a gummy bear fueled stream. Just a slide for you guys. It's a reminder. I know some people take some screenshots of this and pass it around. That's cool. Again, free character rotation for trial users. If you are a full game user, by the way, one of the benefits, I think, is you now have all 30 characters at your disposal. We had hero keys and stuff before. I think it just pretty much everybody almost has everything. We'll go through details of that later. But if you are a trial player, every Thursday, we've already started the free rotation this week, so it actually won't change this Thursday. But a week from Thursday, you will get 6 new characters. It will be at our normal time that we usually do our afternoon micro patches here in the U.S. time. We'll roll those in. You'll see the character rotation change over, and then for that week, you'll have 6 new characters. We already have those pre-planned out. We'll probably, in fact, what we'll probably do, Meredith, I don't know if we've talked about this, but in this Thursday's battle plan, we'll talk about what the next week's rotation of characters are.
Good
so
call.
you guys have an idea of what's always coming up on that. And we'll try to stay ahead of that and be sure you guys know what's just on the horizon.
Right.
I know that helps you guys to plan, like, do I want to spend all my credits on this, or do I want to buy gear packs or whatever? Those are great questions, and we want to give you guys information to make smart decisions there. And as we said, you can still, if you want to permanently unlock a character, like, oh man, character was on rotation, but it's going away, but I still want Oscar Mike as my favorite. Again, you can buy those through earned currency, through premium currency, through credits or platinum. However you want to do that, and permanently unlock that character. It's yours forever. And by the way, if you individually purchase characters and then decide, after a few characters in, that you want to do a full game upgrade, we will refund the character value in earned currency and credits back to you, which then you can go in the marketplace and buy a ton of loot packs and invest in other things there.
Oh, fantastic.
So you can buy the other DLC characters if you haven't bought those yet and all that. So we're trying to be as good to you guys as we can and understand that if you invest in the game and buy it in the game different ways, we want to be sure that we take care of you and give you good value for what you're getting for your money. So there's been a lot of thought on that. And absolutely, the last bullet point, progress carries over.
Yes.
If you are a trial player, anything that you level up, that you that you learn, that you unlock, any gear that you get, any skins that you unlock through character ramp, any challenges, any challenge completion, that all carries over seamlessly into the full game upgrade when you buy the full game.
Awesome.
Now, Randy, I know somebody was asking earlier about character rotation, and they kind of wanted to know, like, what kind of thought process do you put into picking the characters?
Who it's going to be every week? Yeah,
no, that's a very good question. There's actually one of these days I may drop the spreadsheet on you guys and show you. Designers love spreadsheets. I mean, like, other people get excited, like art and stuff. You give me a grid of colored boxes, and I go absolutely nuts.
Don't tell me it's color coded.
No, it's absolutely color coded because we have factions to think about.
That's true.
So there's a few considerations that go into the player rotation every week, and generally what we want to be sure is that out of the 6 characters that we give you in a free rotation, we represent a couple of things. First off, is that those 6 characters playing alone as a team can make an okay team. There's at least one defender character, one kind of tank character in there, that there's one support character in there that can do either healing or shielding or something like that. And then the other characters we kind of mix up. Some weeks you might have a couple of support, some weeks you might have a couple of defenders, but honestly, we have so many attackers in our game that most of the time you're just going to get a good mix of other characters. We also try to be sure that at least one character from every faction in our game factions are represented every week. So if you like one faction more than the others, you'll have a character in your faction every week. And then there's also some thought put to things like, okay, this is a character that's ranged. This is a character that's melee. This is a character that has heavy control abilities. This is a character that has heavy movement abilities. And we try to mix those up a little bit. You're going to see some weeks are going to feel a little bit different than others on the free rotation. But generally, we have those going on. I would love to see in our forums and Reddit threads as we put out the first couple of weeks of free rotations. Love to hear your feedback on that, on ideas that you have for better mixes of characters and all that. Again, we're planned several weeks out, but I'm extremely happy to reconsider some of those plans. And if you have rotations that you'd really like to see, there's some 3 or 4 weeks out, we can start making some adjustments to that and try to give you guys some good ideas and some good options there.
Awesome.
But a lot of thought and a lot of consideration went into that process.
That's good. That's good. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, and we'd love to hear from you guys, once those rotations start going out. So, make sure that you are commenting on the forums, on social, any place, where you might talk about Battleborn, because we will see it and we will take your stuff into consideration.
We got you. We got you. Now, speaking of we got you, we talked a lot about this new player experience, what new folks are going to see, but we definitely wanted to provide something for the folks who have been crucial members of the Battleborn community this entire time, and that comes in the form of, drumroll,
what do we even call it? The Founders Pack is part of it, but it's the Founders Bonus Reward, Founders Bonus Content Program.
Yeah, sure.
So first off, Founders, I hope that you guys appreciate that one of the big things that we want to give you is a player base to find players to play against. And we've wanted that. We've wanted to make all of that better and to find more players and get more players in the Battleborn. So the free trial has been something that we have wanted literally for months, and it's finally here. So that's our first big thank you, is we're trying to give you a game that has really healthy queues, really healthy player population, and everybody can experience a really great queues, even hopefully PC users. Really hoping to see the PC population pick back up here. And I play on all 3 platforms. I love Battleborn everywhere that exists. But I play on PC the most. I'm an old guy. I'm just classic. It's PC
okay.
gamer.
We still love you.
And so I like to play there, and I'll be really excited to be able to have some users to play against and play with on the PC again. But we didn't want to stop there. You notice that with a lot of things we're doing, bringing in the free-to-play trial of Battleborn, there are a lot of changes that we've made to the pricings of characters, to the marketplace. We've added in for the first time, we'll talk about the Magnus Pack, a premium-only content pack with some other changes. We've done several things that are hopefully orienting the game for more of that free trial player. But we wanted to be sure that we take care of our veteran players, our founder players. So basically, if you owned a copy of Battleborn and logged in, I think had a shift count prior to when we started the update yesterday afternoon, we consider you a founder member and want to give you a big, massive thank you. You guys have been an awesome, super loyal, super amazing community. I've gotten to know a number of you guys on the forums and on Reddit, and I know some of you have yelled at me. That's cool. I understand. What I hear from that most of the time is your passion for a game that I'm also passionate about, and I'm really, really glad to see that you stuck with us. So we wanted to give you guys a massive thank you while we're bringing in this huge new ocean of trial players that are going to come in, and it's going to change the community, and it's going to hopefully for the better. You guys, I'm depending on you as good founders to be awesome guides. I've already seen a couple of forums posts on Reddit and our forums to that. I started a forum a few days ago on a thread on our forums asking you guys to give what were tips that you give to new players.
Right.
We want to get some of those in game eventually, but I wanted to get everybody in that thought of what are the things that we really need to communicate and we want to communicate. So let me walk you through one of the biggest love letters that we've ever given to Gearbox fans ever. Definitely to Battleborn plans. So first off, 1,000 platinum.
That's like a lot.
That's premium currency. That will buy most of the single things of the game. And if you really spend it well, you can buy a few taunts. You can buy a few of the new Magnus packs. Whatever you want with that. But that's at least enough to buy. To buy most of the items in our marketplace right now, with just a couple exceptions. I'll tell you about those later. That's awesome. Also, 50,000 freaking credits, y'all! Woo! I like to spend credits on loot packs, or for whatever reason, you have a DLC character that you never bought. By the way, if you had hero keys sitting around, if your hero keys are kind of going away as a concept,
right, yes.
And if you had a hero key sitting around, we either converted that to a DLC character that you didn't own, or just gave you 47,500 credits, which was the value of those DLC characters. So you may find a lot of credits in your bank logging in today. We're running some things on that, and you'll see some reimbursables there.
Somebody actually asked about that. They were like, wow, I didn't realize that I had 87,500 credits in my
Well, now you do, because we heard you like credits.
That's why.
We heard you like credits.
So put some credits in your credits.
We tried to put a lot of thought and a lot of effort in being sure that you guys who have invested in the game in different ways in the past don't find yourself falling short in any way as we really open the game up to the world here. We want to be sure that your time and your investment in our game is awarded. So 50,000 credits. Also, the exclusive founder title.
Can I just say how gorgeous that is?
I'm not an artist, but occasionally I have a moment. I lovingly assembled this title. I composited it together in Photoshop just for you guys. So this is a Randy Varnell, creative director J3 exclusive art.
Okay.
I'm sure a real artist could have done much better, but I wanted to get some personal love to you guys, and so I chopped up an image and put some other things together and all that. But I thought it was cool. I was like, we have these new idea of kind of these full bar titles that will, rather than just a little icon, be a graphic across the other bar. A couple others we're going to show you later in the stream today. But I wanted all of you guys to have something that was pretty, something that was colorful, and something that when you show off to the rest of these new free trial strangers that are coming into your turf, that you can clearly own and say proudly that you are a founder, and they know what's coming out of it. So there's that.
That's awesome.
Also, Gold Melka and D'Andy skins. I don't think we'd released those before. So founders, there you go. Enjoy those. I know a lot of people had looked for those, so that's awesome.
You can see Melka above, looking awesome.
She looks cool. I love that Melka skin.
Yeah.
Also, 5 core loot packs. So again, we're going to start with the loot packs. You're just going to get 5 core loot packs. The loot pack that we introduced with the winter update end of January, and those are really great loot packs. Most of the time, you're going to get commons out of those, but they have a greater chance to give you uncommons, rare, epics, and legendaries, and then a chance in the core loot packs to give you one of our common skins and taunts. So the colorizations, the taunts that normally appeared in other loot packs before those. One of each Commander faction pack. Oh. So the Commander faction pack, again, a gear pack that you open up, and has several pieces of gear that's usually uncommon or better, but they are of a specific faction. They are also guaranteed to give you 1 skin or taunt from a character in that faction. So again, showering more skins and taunts than that. And if you already have that skin or taunt, it should be converting to credits for you. Again, another way to stack up on credits and to go buy more packs later on if you want.
Wow.
Make them bank.
And last but certainly not least is the exclusive Founder Loot Pack. I made a loot pack just for you guys called the Founders Pack. It should be sitting around in your inventory. I think a lot of you have already opened that and cracked that thing open. Ooh. This is the most epic of epic loot packs that has ever loot packed a loot pack. I mean, it is really something else. So here's what you're going to get. Do we have a separate slide? Just I can't remember if we did the Founders Loot Pack separately. We didn't.
Potentially. Maybe.
We didn't.
We have Oscar Mike wearing the crown.
Okay,
But
so let me walk you through what's in the Founders Loot Pack. You're going to get 2 guaranteed legendaries in that loot pack. The first legendary that you're going to get is from our general legendary pool that you guys have seen in the core pack and other loot packs before. But with the exception that it's going to have guaranteed, if you haven't talked about the system yet, guaranteed Flair, our new aesthetic reward system attached to gear. Guaranteed Flair on that. So that's going to happen. The second legendary you're going to get is another legendary, random legendary from our boss drop legendary pool. So what normally dropped only off of bosses in one of our PvE maps, you're going to get that from the Founders Pack, and it is also going to have guaranteed Flair on it. Now, our normal boss legendaries in the game, in the story missions, do not drop Flair right now. We're working on that, but didn't get that out in time for the update. That's going to come later. So this is one of the few ways that you're going to get those boss legendaries with Flair on it right now. So you Founders are going to have an exclusive first go at getting Flair on those boss drop legendaries. I think you'll also get another common pool legendary on that also has Flair. I mean, a common gear item or better that has Flair on it in the Founders Pack. And you're going to get three guaranteed legendaries in the pack, because the last one, and can't believe we don't have a slide on this. It's around, by the way, you can find it on the Battleborn forums and on Reddit. I've seen some pictures go up already. A new, handmade, exclusive, unique legendary item called the Shard of Solace. For those of you who are veteran Battleborn players, I hope you really appreciate what this is. The Shard of Solace is a legendary, 0 activation cost shard generator. Now, it's eye level 50. If you guys know how the system works, gear has a random chance to have stats all the way from eye level 1 to eye level 100. So this is right in the roll. It's 1.8 shards per second, I think is the stat on it. But it has no flaw. Again, for you veteran players, you can understand what this means. It means now you can run a shard generator. Normally, you would people, I know, look for a common flawed shard generator because you had to have a flaw on the shard generator before, which means you took a negative on a stat in order to get the activation cost to 0. This is the only non-flawed shard generator in the game that has a 0 activation cost and no flaw. Also, if you see that the crown on the arc here in the middle, that is Founders Flair. That is the Founders Crown Flair that will appear on this shard generator. So I think one of the coolest colorizations of that crown in the game, silver, black, and gold, kind of matching some of the other Founders themes that we've had on there. And for all of you Founders, again, guarantee that everything that you get out of that Founders Pack is guaranteed to have Flair on it. So you guys get to come right out of sporting your. I guess it's a good transition. We'll probably talk about the Flair system soon. We'll talk about it in a second. Yeah. But anyway, Founders Pack, full of love, full of stuff. Hopefully you guys understand how much we love you and thank you and really appreciate how much you poured into Battleborn with us the last year, and wanted to be sure that we took care of you guys as we're transitioning kind of this new age of Battleborn as we kick off the summer. All right, what's up next?
That is a whole lot of stuff.
I'm 2 gummy bears after that one.
Just go ahead and eat yourself some gummy bears real quick.
Yeah, I think we all could use a gummy bear too.
Yes. So what we're gonna do is I don't know if people realize, like, yes, we announced this kind of whole new game experience for folks. We have all of this sweet gear for our Founders, but on top of all of that, we also had kind of just a ridiculous update with a lot of changes, a lot of character balance changes, scoreboard changes, gear changes, all sorts of stuff. So I think this would be a really, really good time to start chatting about some of those other changes that folks might have started experiencing yesterday, might have gotten into some of the patch notes yesterday when those came out as well. But we have a very special guest with us. We have Jonathan Carruthers to come help us talk through some character changes. We'll be right back, and we are going to get ourselves Jonathan. We're going to talk about some of these character changes that we saw as a result of the update. lag. Look at that. That was seamless.
Ninja smoke.
We are trying out all sorts of new things here with this very, very special stream we got going. Up to and including new microphones.
Yep.
So,
Hopefully
hooray.
they work well.
So we have here Jonathan Carruthers. Tell us a little
Hey,
bit
everybody.
about what you do.
I do a lot of things.
That's an understatement.
Understatement of the century.
I am currently working as a junior designer on the Battleborn live team.
Awesome.
I've done a lot with gear in the past and still do a lot with the gear system. This past update, I've gone more heavily into some of the character changes and balance changes, working with our balance team to try and refine that process as best we can.
So just a little context for you guys. Jonathan's actually worked with the Battleborn team and on Battleborn for probably 2 or 3 years now, well before launch. I worked with our QA team for a while, and when we found out that, man, he actually has some skill at looking at numbers and balance and gear and stuff, we brought him on and integrated that. Jonathan's actually been very, very involved in a lot of the gear since we launched Battleborn last year. And I'm going to say that all of the best changes to the gear came from him, and all the worst changes to the gear probably came from me.
I don't know about
so it was some dumb idea that I had that we messed up. But John's been awesome. And so he's I want to bring him here. He's certainly worked with some of the other guys you met, BT and Grant Ko, and some of our other designers that are still helping us out and working with that. But he's had his hands into everything from gear to characters to skills to modes to, geez, I don't know what you haven't touched at this point. Probably a little of everything, but been very important for that. So as John can explain some of the changes, I think you guys who played with me, I'm looking at you, Ice and Dunk Squad. I'm a pretty decent player, but there's definitely a point where I'm like, my old man kicks in, and I can understand some of what you're saying. All the words are good, but the concepts, my brain just doesn't work that way. I get distracted by gummy bears and bright shiny things, and I go off topic. But guys like John really help us keep focused and keep honest in the numbers. You think I like spreadsheets? You ought to see what this guy does, because like this week I was watching. You were working on a grid where you were going through, I believe, all of the damage numbers for players, looking at what was it, primary attack damage and skill damage for like all abilities.
Yeah, all abilities, all augments, all mutations, and a lot of that work was actually done by Jen. I was just looking at the numbers.
Yeah, so Jennifer Lane, another one of our super invaluable, multi-hat people on Battleborn right now that have done everything in our game. Massive spreadsheet where they're basically going through, you're asking, do you ever test the game? Yes.
Yeah.
Massive spreadsheets where they're little like, what does this attack do? Okay, there's a number. What does this attack do? Okay, there's a number. In some cases, we have to do those types of things manually because of how complex the combinations can get with gear and skills and mutations and augments and everything like that. So these guys go through and double check, and we're doing a lot of work, as well as looking at the data from play, of evaluating our characters, looking what our next patch changes are.
Yep.
But that kind of process went into all the patch changes we're here to talk about today.
Yes.
So let's walk you through what's kind of gone on in this patch. Now, we actually dropped the patch notes, all the balance changes on you guys yesterday. And so today, I've already talked, I think, in several, like the Battleborn forums and a few other places, in some of our Discords about the patch changes. I've taken some questions, and I know a lot of people are still getting their hands wrapped around it. There's some debate on it. That's actually really good. I love it when you guys like, I'm not sure what this patch going to do. You may have just buffed Galilea instead of nerfed her. That's cool. Let's. We think we did the right thing. We're pretty sure. We've done some testing in-house, and we think we're headed the right direction with all that. But certainly, with the game as complex as Battleborn, the real test is to get it out in the wild, to listen to what you guys have to say, and to watch the data on the back end, and marry all that together, and have a lot of good debates and discussions here to figure out what the next steps we are to keep the game as balanced as possible.
Cool.
So the first thing, I'll take a couple of these, and I'll hand a few specific characters off to Jonathan to walk you through, is we are overall evaluating kind of what we call a character role, really character archetypes. Battleborn, if you're a new player, you might not know this, but experienced players should know. All of our characters are generally divided into one of 3 archetypes, and you can actually see that represented in character select now in 3 categories. Attackers are damage dealers. Defenders, who are a little bit more tanky and usually have a little bit more control in their play kits. And then support characters who can be anywhere from buffing and debuffing to healing to shielding, generally doing things to make the team work better together. So we've been analyzing that a lot, and we want to take some steps over the next few months to make the roles feel a little bit more distinct from one another. Some of the DLC characters that we released, while really, really cool and kind of in the do everything category, were neat. Beatrix is a great example.
Right.
But Beatrix, labeled as a support character, could actually do damage as good as or greater than, for a while, than many of our attackers. As well, she had a lot of escape and had a little bit of control, so she's also breaching a little bit into the defender category. And it's kind of a fuzzy character and actually makes it very difficult to balance. So you're going to see with this update and with subsequent updates, us moving back to archetypes that are more distinct from one another and really help to accentuate teamwork in Battleborn. The first change that happened for that is attackers deal 15 more damage to non-Battleborn enemies. That's minion, thrall, sentry, that type of thing, all the enemies in PvE. And defenders take 15 less damage from non-Battleborn. So attackers are definitely going to start to feel a little bit of a damage boost when you're clearing minion waves, you're attacking super minions or elite bots and all that. And defenders are going to feel a little bit more tanky. Defenders are going to have a little bit more of just a natural inclination to stand toe-to-toe to the sentries. And other places like that, a little bit more survivability. Yep. And we're going to watch that, and this is the first step there. You want to add anything to that, John?
I mean, I'll just attribute that idea to Grant. That was definitely one of his great suggestion, something that he just kind of threw out there one day in the office as we were talking about some of those archetypes and things like that, and we were discussing all these different variety of changes we could do to push things one way or the other, and he was like, there might be something kind of, relatively simple that we could do here for a couple archetypes that will push this in the right direction, and I think he nailed it. I think that change is going to be big.
Cool. Yeah, they sound like small numbers, but sometimes small numbers are big changes, and so really, really interested to see how you guys feel about that. And note that this is a first step in probably several big steps that we'll take to do more of these archetypal changes. Some will manifest like this, like all characters of this archetype get a change. Some you'll just see us start to tune characters a particular way to bring their ability kits more in line with what we feel that they should be in their archetypal role. Cool. So we won't ever have anything perfect. Like, you're still going to have some odd mixes and hybrids. Like, we're never going to take the damage away from Umbra. She's still going to be a good damage dealer as a support character. But you're going to see a little bit more leaning one way or another, a little bit more distinctiveness in the characters, we hope.
Great. I actually have a question from the chat. Just to clarify, is this for both PvP and PvE?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. In fact, in some ways, it affects PvE more because it is all of the enemies in PvE that you will encounter, you'll see these changes. Right. In PvP modes, it doesn't affect damage from Battleborn players. I don't think even from bot characters if you're playing bots battle, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. But it will be minion, thrall, sentries, super minions, those types of things in the versus matches will have this. But every enemy in PvE, so everybody should feel this change.
Excellent.
A couple other small ones. It's now much harder for NPC enemies to critical hit Battleborn characters. Whew. That resulted in some less than ideal interaction with those. I think there were some one-shotting situations that could happen in a couple of places.
No.
It should make it a lot harder for that to happen now.
Cool.
Yeah, and it won't be, that thing is that's just so random. That's not something that players can control at all. Just getting randomly hit for a crit by a turret or a minion just doesn't feel good. There's nothing you can do about that.
There's no skill involved in that, so we wanted to flatten that out. And why don't you talk us through the damage amplification change?
Yeah, so something that has been kind of sticking with me lately as I evaluate a lot of this stuff has been the kind of prevalence of damage amp. Obviously, Bolas has been a big Bolas target finder, the gear piece, which we just took down a little bit. I was probably a little overzealous in the winter update with that one, but I can improve there. But so damage amp in general was actually pretty common. It's not something that a lot of people picked up on. It's not real flashy. You're not going to see big crit numbers or anything like that, but it actually has a pretty huge impact on the game, especially when they start to compound, when you have multiple characters on a team putting down damage amp and affecting numerous enemies' entire minion waves. In the case of Umbra with her sunspot, being able to put down one sunspot, it instantly attaches to everybody, and even though they're no longer taking damage, they're all still affected by that damage amp. So then all of the damage from your minion wave, the damage from sentries, anything else gets magnified on that character, and that compounds with other damage amps. And so one of the things that we've done with this update is for damage amp abilities, or abilities that can put damage amps on enemies, we've tried to reduce those, or we have reduced those down to 8% from 16%.
So half of the bonus they had before.
Right.
So still a bonus. You're still going to feel
exactly.
that play, and you should still feel the ability there. but taking that edge off.
Right, yeah, and specifically for the ones that are so easy to apply. Characters that have single target damage amp, you'll still see that those are 16%. So they're still going to have the burst, especially ones, like Whiskey's is, for himself, that damage burst that he gets. So
who do we expect this is going to affect? Umbra? Who else do you expect?
Umbra and Galilea.
Galilea especially. So this is, again, a part of that whole bringing Galilea and Umbra from launch have been two of those characters that have tended to be a little bit overpowered, and this is one of the things we're finally discovering that's part of that. And so as a part of that, bringing that back down into control.
Right.
All right, let's look at more changes. We've got a lot more to go through.
Yeah.
Probably pick up the pace.
So these are kind of general changes, but then we also have very specific character changes.
Right.
And I am particularly proud of these because, not for nothing, these characters look really, really nice.
Right.
All right, next slide. Haha, Alani.
There we go.
All right, now I know I've already heard from you guys. We're already seeing, kind of like the great Eldragon patch of 2016, Rip Alani. I've seen those threads. I don't think so just yet. I think you're definitely going to see Alani lose her dominance in the game. Right now, Alani is a very, very, very banned character in Versus. We're tracking that. We saw that a lot in the tournament because Alani had this very similar problem to Galilea, who also is going to get some big attention here in just a second. Alani was kind of the girl who could do it all. Our best healer, a very high damage output. She also had some control. Again, one of those characters sitting kind of right in that middle of that Venn diagram between attacker, defender, and supporter, and could do everything.
Right.
Again, we want to pull her into support, and we also want to pull her back into line with the other supports to be sure that again, she's not a dominant damage dealer and a dominant healer.
Exactly.
Yes. Speaking of dominance, we do have a quote from producer Anthony Nicholson who states, and I quote, "I will still dominate you with Alani."
I think that's inappropriate, Anthony. I don't know what that means, but okay.
See, he won't really feel these changes because he doesn't heal as Alani. He just throws out.
Oh, that explains a lot of what happened when we played with some of our dev group games, and Anthony was like, "Heals, please, heals, please."
That was not shade. That was a read.
All right.
He admits it. He says it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
So again, only really a couple of changes with her that are going to affect her a lot. Reduce the base attack damage of a torrent coming down. Again, that's her main auto attack on Alani. Pull it down by 10%, which again, small number, decent change. It's not going to absolutely kill her ability to deal damage with torrent. And there's some still ways you can still take gear and other things like that to get those damage numbers back up if you want. But now you're going to have to invest a little bit more into it to do that, and you're going to give up some other things that you might be focused in. And that's exactly where we want you to be. Also, Wellspring heal is way down on that. So that was a big issue before, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it wasn't a huge red flag issue, but it's sort of a way that we got at the damage issue with her too. She was spending so much time just throwing out the water bolts, dealing damage because she could just save her stacks, and then whenever anybody needed it, she could just instantly heal you back to full. So with this change, what we had in mind is we're trying to push players that are playing as Alani to be kind of going with a more quick rhythm of damage, heal, damage, heal, rather than just damaging the whole time.
Smaller
and then
heals
occasionally
more consistently, rather than the full health heal, which really is probably too big of a tide turner. I made a tide joke. Probably too big of an effect in matches when it happens. So we definitely pull that back. The patch notes have the actual numbers. You might remember them off your head, but it was a pretty decent reduction to that.
Cool.
I think you'll still see, especially with Wellspring and healing, you'll still see her be an effective healer.
Yeah.
You'll still see that, but like you said, Alani players, what we really want to see you do is heal a lot more frequently rather than big heals when you have it. So.
Awesome. Now let us turn our attention to Atticus.
By the way, I think you read it. You gave me a challenge. I think it was last winter, where you're like, man, or it was with the winter update in January, where we gave you the Pouncer Bouncer title, which was the rank 20 title for Atticus, and you said, man, you really missed an opportunity here to name him Daticus. And I'm like, oh,
that's full
I did
grade.
miss an
Also,
opportunity there.
And
so I put a challenge to the Reddit thread. I said, okay, if you can get I think it was 70 people or some dumb number I put out there. You can get this amount of people to say I want it, then I'll change the title. And it took like maybe an hour for that many people to respond. So there you go. His rank 20 title is now Daticus. Or if you're wearing Flair, I missed another opportunity. Someone yesterday called him Hatticus.
Oh.
So I don't know, maybe a new title incoming for him as well. We'll have to play with that. John, why don't you talk through this, because I think there's some really exciting changes with him here. They're just going to really put him in a sweet spot.
Yeah, the first, as you can see, it's probably one of the largest numbers that you'll see on his sheet here is the pounce, the AoE going up by 33%, and that's accompanied by the damage fall off. So you'll still be able to hit right in the target. If you jump right on top of somebody, you'll still see the same damage numbers that you usually would, but you'll be able to hit a larger group of targets just on the very outside edges of that for less damage.
Right, and that's if you're using his pounds to apply other effects that you might stack on that, giving you a lot more opportunity to apply those effects and use him as an initiator controller like we like our defenders to be. But there's still, if you really are using his pounce as a damage initiation, there's still some skill on that. You're still going to want to land that with precision and be right on the top of that for maximum potential.
Right, yeah, and so hitting on that initiator point, that's part of what went into the base health increase, you know, trying to make sure that he can get in and not just get nuked down
He's
too
a big
quickly.
dude.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then also in that same vein, the hedronic haste functionality change is a similar change. The hope there is that you can actually use pounce then with full stacks to pounce in, you know, reduce your cooldowns so that hopefully pounce is back up by the time you really need it to escape again. So you don't have to just walk in there soaking up damage the whole way before you get to the point where you can swing at somebody only to have to turn around and pounce out at that point.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and then big payback time from 60 to 120 damage on that. The idea there is just so when you take that, it's a risk-reward thing. I think it goes up to 120 damage, and so the thing is there, that's only when you're like at 0 health that it actually hits the maximum of its efficiency for that choice. So that's something that players weren't really getting the full benefit of, so we tuned that up a bit to hopefully make that risk pay off.
Yeah, these are really in the same vein as the changes we made with Atticus in the winter update, kind of really trying to make his whole play kit a lot more fun and a lot more viable without turning him into an unkillable god, which we've seen it several times in the past. I think this is going to be a really cool update for Atticus fans that are going to find some skill back in his play. Yep. They're really going to keep him in like, look, I jump in and I beat things, you know, loot. But there's some reward of thinking through, you know, getting your hedronic stacks up, of really aiming your pounce as well, of doing that, and some smart builds for him. So interesting to see what you guys do with him.
Cool. Now let's turn our attention. I believe you did mention a little bit of changes in her direction. Beatrix.
So Beatrix has been another one of those that have been really, really like, oh my gosh, overpowered, ban everywhere. And so as you guys saw when we released her in the spring, we actually had a couple of aggressive micro patch weeks on her to really bring down like some of her damage dominance. There was a time for a while when we were looking at the data, we actually saw her, you know, in the damage dealt and the KD ratios and the win rates, just literally at the top of the chart from everyone. And that's not where you want a support character to be.
The best was the melee damage build.
Oh yeah. There was a lot where melee damage was done. We saw some videos of Beatrix's, I think, circle strafing a Montana, punching him to death, and it just didn't quite feel what we wanted.
What an image.
So, but one of the big things we did is there's been a lot of talk about her ability fulminate. Fulminate's one of her skills, and again, it's where she sprays kind of homing projectiles at a bunch of people. And what she was able to do in the past is a Beatrix come up and kind of fulminate an entire team of people, and the fulminate had I think it could get up to a 6 second silence that it could apply.
Yeah, I mean, it was pulled that down later,
it was a pretty large silence. And a silence is super powerful because, you know, not only does it kind of interrupt anything you're doing right now, but it means you can't trigger any skills or your abilities. It often means you can't escape, you can't shield, you can't ult, you can't do all of your stuff for a long time. We like that ability in Beatrix. As a support character, we like her as kind of the invasive interrupter. But we felt that, man, her ability to just go rock, you know, and to take a whole team down and silence them was way too powerful, and you guys agreed with us. So here's what we've done. We've reworked Fulminate so that each Fulminate projectile actually applies, I believe it's a 0.5 second silence that can stack. So I can't remember the number of projectiles in that.
8.
The 8 projectiles that she'll shoot out in the Fulminate. So if you hit one character with all 8 projectiles, it'll still do a 4 second silence on that character because all those will stack. But you have to land all of them. You have to hit that. But now if you spray a group each projectile that hits will only apply a small silence, and those stack up. So it's still as effective as a quick interrupt. If you want to come in and interrupt a group, it's a great way to open an initiation or open up an attack from your team. But it can no longer shut down a team forever and ever and ever and keep them silenced most of the game. It's going to take a lot more skill and a lot more focus on an intent on what you want to do and get that out of there.
Exactly.
Also, in just bringing her out of, again, the multifaceted everything girl, reduced her base health by 10%. We lowered that a little bit. She has such a range on all of her abilities. We want to be sure that if you get to her, you can take her down and take her out a little bit easier. The base attack damage of the encystic ejector, again, that's just the auto attack on that. It's her sniper attack. Pull that down by 20%. That's a pretty big. Someone was asking because if you look at the patch notes, the numbers don't look like we did our math right. Our scaling works different across the abilities, and sometimes math as you scale up an ability, and a math works different. It is by what we did in the number change in the game, it is a 20% reduction.
Right.
But it's going to look different at some different levels of how that plays out and applies out. But it is basically about a 20% reduction across the board. You want to talk about Patient Zero and Plague Rat?
Sure, yeah. Plague Rat was actually something that a few people picked up on, but it was sort of underutilized, at least in my experience, for how strong it was. And so once we kind of realized, there were a few people that pointed out sort of the full potential of Plague Rat to actually start putting out, it could effectively be one of the most damaging augments in the game. So we're pulling that down significantly here, to 35 down at level 1. Sure. So I think that change will, have a great impact on her ability to just kind of put out damage without thinking. Right. The ability to just sprawl out large numbers of damage by hitting one target without any skill. It just passes to everybody.
And those are smaller changes. So those are still effective attacks and still effective builds that you can do with them. They're still going to let her be kind of that apply a damage over time to a lot of, and still manipulate the battlefield in that way. But maybe not destroy the Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Unleash the Beatrix Apocalypse, the Beatropolis. I don't know what.
We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
Next.
Excellent. So that is Beatrix. Let us have a looky-loo at Boulder. Also, I'm just going to point out how awesome he looks right now. And there are quite a few people interested in the looks of these characters. It is not a coincidence that these aesthetic choices were made.
So there is a new series of character skins. One new skin for every character. I would consider this our common skins. There are colorization skins. And it's this cool red, yellow, and a white or a silver on some characters that have a shine on them. And some of people have noticed them. By the way, if you didn't notice, one of the big points of the update we haven't talked about yet, but you can go to the dojo now and preview all skins and all taunts. When you go into the dojo, when you go through the character select in the dojo, all skins and taunts are available to you there. So if you really want to try out a skin and taunt, even a premium skin and taunt on a character before you spend money on it, you want to see what it looks like when you taunt, when you move around and all that, and be sure you're spending your money well, you can do that now. You can go to the dojo and check that out. So you can see all these skins in there and take a look at that and really decide what you want to go for. These skins actually drop in the new Magnus pack, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
So Boulder didn't get a lot of changes. We actually did a little bit of micro patching right before this update last week to bring down his damage a little bit. Because Boulder, again, was another one of those that even as a really strong defender and a controller in a lot of ways, was doing a lot more damage than we wanted. So we brought that down a little bit. And then another small change, Boulder's a weird character, right? Because Boulder is a super amazing favorite of a few people, and the people who are Dwarf Furious, I'm looking right at you.
Die-hard Boulder fans.
Yeah, and the people who are really good with Boulder are actually frightening. He's one of those players that has a high skill cap, and the skilled players with Boulders are, especially with a coordinated team, are absolutely devastating in their ability to kind of block and tackle and avoid damage for that. And then as Boulder gets on a roll in his previous builds, I mean, he got, you get past that level 5 in match, and you really see Boulder getting his ult and getting his bonuses and stacking bonuses on that. Just does a devastating amount of damage, a lot more than we want for a defender character. So we've been pulling that back some, and with this the Boulder dash, Basically, he has to actually hit a target now to get the benefit of his overshield. Before, you just use that ability, free overshield, everybody, look at me. Now you have to hit, I think, a player or a minion, or it can't be environment. You can't run into a tree and, overshield, angry. You actually have to hit some kind of player or NPC or minion or something in the world.
It kind of brings it in parity with Shane's. Shane and Aurochs have a skill where they get an overshield off a successful fetch, and so that's kind of where we took the inspiration for this very change from. I mean, the other thing that this does is oftentimes a retreating boulder would use his dash to get away, and he could be down at 10% health, and use his dash, gets overshield, and so even if you're shooting him as he runs away, you have no chance of killing him before he's gone. So this, you can still use it as an escape, but it's only going to be the mobility escape. It's not going to give you an overshield.
Right.
Cool. So let us turn our attention to another big guy with a lot of love to give, who also looks mad dope in these skins. Let's go.
His skins are all pretty great.
Where's the tech?
Great job, Greg.
Come on.
Oh, yeah. Calling out our own programmer, Greg Vanderpool, who has been doing a lot of work with our skin system. He did all these skins. It's his loving tribute. I call it the Greg Vanderpool Classic Series, all that. But yeah, Eldragon. Eldragon has been one of the most tragic heroes in the Battleborn universe for the last year.
Ay, Dios mío, bendito.
He was amazingly powerful right at launch. We may have, I'm still not going to completely admit to any wrongdoing here, but we may have been a little I think like your word, overzealous with some corrective action on him. I'm going to blame our Dunk Squad favorite, Dr. Ho-Ho, for that, who continued to show us what you could do with the Eldragon in skilled hands. And still, even I think at the worst that Eldragon was as far as performance, Dr. Ho-Ho with a good team could still do a lot of work with him. So we're bringing Eldragon with this patch back up to a lot of places what we want. With the winter update, we saw Eldragon get some of his power back, and what we really started to trace was like, while he was powerful again and has a really cool build-up loop with that, he just didn't have enough survivability. He's a guy that really wants to run in, do something, and then run away. He wants to hit and run and dive and run and come in and out. He's one of the most mobile characters we have in that. So here's the cool thing that we did with him. His passive, Undisputed Champ, now gains stacks, 2% damage reduction per stack. So before it added melee, right? It increased his melee attack damage. So what you want to do with Eldragon is you want to kill a lot of people. You want to kill a lot of minions, you want to kill a lot of players, you want to kill a lot of whatever. You want to get those stacks rolling for you. Now, as you gain stacks, not only do you get more damage, but you get more damage reduction. And I believe if you aug it right and tweak it right, you can get that up to about 35% damage reduction in there. So that's a pretty amazing amount of damage mitigation on this guy. Should give him a lot more survivability. We also call out that the Augment Heavyweight still rewards an additional 1.5 damage reduction per stack. So again, you can still stack, those do stack together. So it's still 3.5% damage reduction per stack.
Yep.
And that's 10 stacks, 8 or 10 stacks?
10 stacks.
10 stacks. So 35% damage reduction if you take those two things together.
And he used to have, heavyweight used to be 30%. But the thing was it became almost mandatory for most Eldragon players. If you want to be able to survive long enough to build your stacks and get those damage loops going, then you have to take heavyweight at level 5. So with this change, hopefully, you're going to get that from the very start of the game. You don't have to wait till level 5 to hit that. You're going to get damage reduction from the bat, right off the bat, as long as you start killing things and building those stacks. And like you said, heavyweight will still give you a little extra edge there, but hopefully this should open up some of the other augments at that level to increase movement speed or increase your skill damage with your stacks.
What we're really going to be watching for with this change with Eldragon is we believe that that the high-end players are going to be absolutely dominant again. I know Dr. Ho-Ho and some other people who are really good with Eldragon are going to be very, very lethal. So watch for them.
Yep.
But I think what we're going to see is your average Eldragon player now is going to feel a lot more like, hey, this is a viable attacker again. I can come in. He's going to feel really good in the team. He's not going to feel like a bad choice when you see him in a team match. And he's going to come back. I think we're going to see a kind of a resurgence of Eldragon here in the meta, and I think you're going to see him becoming a common attacker. So we're going to be watching over the next couple of weeks and thinking about ways that we, to be sure he's not out of control again. But I think we're going to have a lot of fun with him. So you guys who are Eldragon fans, enjoy this.
Justicia para el dragón is what I say.
Excellent. Je parle un peu français.
That's justice for Eldragon in Spanish. Cool. So, that's actually a very, very good question. Speaking of Undisputed Champ stacks, will you be able to see a number?
We still don't have anything on the HUD as
HUD
far as like
numbers.
UI element.
Here's a trick. If you did not know this already, as those stacks increase, you will see on Eldragon's fist, you'll see some electrical charge build up and see them glow and get brighter and brighter and brighter. I know it's a little less precise than you might want, but that is a clear indication. It's also a visible indication to other players that, holy crap, Eldragon's charged up. We might not play right now. So. We want to be sure that we always communicate both to you and the other players, but no, you can't see the number yet. It's something we talked about for the future. We need a little UI rework to be able to work that type of thing in. Something we've talked about, not there yet.
Cool. All right, so let's have a look at another fine gent. One of my personal favorites. Look at this little guy. He's so cute. I love this skin on him.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that one yet.
Jonathan, why don't you walk us through Ernest?
Okay, yeah, with the direct hit changes, as many of you know, it used to be that if Ernest directly hit with a grenade, all enemies in the AoE of that grenade are going to take the increased damage from the direct hit. So the direct hit change now makes it to where the initial target that gets hit by the grenade is going to take the extra damage, but everybody else in that area is only going to take just the normal damage from that grenade. The Shell Shocker functionality change, what we're going for, I mean, it's kind of in the same vein as the direct hit change. We're trying to, return Ernest to being, like we've talked about, pushing characters back into archetypes. He's a territorial defender for us that, capable of putting out some damage and also, buffing an area and taking control of it for his team. And so, that'll push him in that direction. I mean, really, that's the all razzle dazzle, same kind of thing. It's only going to apply to targets that are hit by that, marked by direct hit, not targets that got marked by being hit by anything in the area. Yeah,
you're not going to see a lot of, I think, power reduction on Ernest. But what you're going to see is it's going to take a lot more skill to get to the same type of power that you had before.
Right.
You're really going to need to think about where you're aiming those grenades. You're going to need skill shots. You're going to need to think more about the target that needs to receive the most damage from those type of things and be sure that you're doing that. I think prior to that, you could just lob grenades into minion waves with Ernest and you could do an immense amount of damage. It didn't require a lot of skill. Yeah. And we wanted to bring that skill play back into his game a lot more. So again, we still expect him to be very powerful, but probably less spammy noob TB, with the grenade launcher.
Yep.
Again, you're going to want to think a little bit more about how you place those shots and develop some expertise in them.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Now, one thing that we did mention, I know Meredith has been sort of keeping tabs in the chat that a lot of folks are very, very happy with this next person's change, Galilea. If we can get to her real quick. There we go. Also looking super dope in the skin, by the way.
Yeah, I love this skin. This is, by the way, it's funny that you get some skins like this when the person making the skin loves this character the most. This is Greg's. I think this is Greg's favorite character, and which is also cool because Greg, even as a programmer, had a lot of design input into the changes that we made on Galilea as a Galilea main, and did a lot of the play testing with us to talk about what's coming up. So. Galilea, has been that character all through that. In fact, I joked in the winter update, we gave her the rank 20 title girl with everything, or girl with it all. Because she just can do everything. A very powerful character. So we're laughing.
Come here. No.
Grant Cato, the designer we've had in here, just held up a sign in the. In fact, Grant, you
put it in front of the camera. You silly goose.
So we now have there's the sign that he just held up for us. That's Grant's hand. So we'll certainly look at Alani. If Alani is not still great, we know.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
the request of Anthony?
Yeah. Well, of course. Who else would it be?
Sure.
So okay, we've got some personal love here. So believe me. Every debate and every struggle that you guys have in the community on balance changes and on character tweaks and changes, we have at Gearbox probably a lot longer than you guys do, and sometimes probably a little bit more violent, believe it or not. So we're going back and forth. We'll always watch all of our characters. But let's talk about Galilea right now because this is a really big. Some people are going to say, we really hit Galilea with the appropriate size Nerf stick. But Galilea got a lot of reduction. Now, we started this with Winter Update with a couple of other patches talking about what our goals were for Galilea. And that really is, Galilea is we always wanted her to be the type of defender with some high damage, but the damage that she can apply is only in an area that she said, this is my ground, no one enters here. And we did that, of course, with their abilities, with Desecration, the aura that she can lay down on the ground that does things to all the enemies and all the players around it. And then the Corruption, the aura that she gains as she does damage and she gets kills and she grows, you know, it turns dark and gets the wings and the demon horns and everything. We wanted to maintain that, but we really want her, you know, if we talked about, Ernest is kind of a territorial defender that can constantly push and move his territory and slow gaps forward. Galilea is really, this is my ground, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, she really picks one area at a time and really kind of nudging forward. She really is supposed to own that. But Galilea has had so much, she's had a little bit of range, strangely, with her. She's had a lot of mobility, the ability to take that damage on the move a lot more, as well as do just incredible amounts of stacking damage right in her area.
Well, and the control is the crazy thing.
And again, everything. She had as an escape, she had a control, she had self-heal, she had everything. So we really need to curtail all that back down. And again, bring some skill play in there. So walk us through some of the corruption changes there and some of the changes on Galileo.
Yeah, so probably the biggest change was the change to Desecrate. It's default now just going to be a slow. It's no longer going to have the damage amp that it used to. As we talked a little bit about damage amp earlier. She's still going to have that. It's just moved till later into her helix. You now have to aug into the damage amp on Desecration. So that's going to be the big thing there. Is Desecrate had a lot of stuff moving around on it. The other big part of that is Vortex was changed. Skill usage is no longer interrupted when pulled by Vortex. Essentially, what that means is every time you would see the pull effects on you on your screen when Galileo is pulling you, that interrupted all your skills. Anything you were trying to do just completely canceled that, and that was kind of devastating, especially to have at level 1. So now Vortex is still going to be a level 1 pull, and it it does synergize with that slow that she already has on Desecrate, but with it no longer interrupting skills, with being a physics pull as opposed to a CC pull, it no longer interrupts skills, and it's going to be, you'll notice at the outside edges, it's going to be a little weaker than it used to be. It used to be, just it's applied to you and you get moved that amount. Now it's just going to be, the impulse is there and you get pulled however much based off of how close to it you are. So yeah, and like I said, Bleak, Quiet, Last Light, Duelist, Inescapable Fate, most of those, they're going to be pretty familiar. You're going to see a lot of elements that were already in her kit. They've just been kind of shifted and moved around a little bit and maybe toned down. Like we mentioned, the damage amp went down from 16% to 8%. She still has the damage available to her if she augs into it, but hopefully they'll have to be a bit more selective with what they're trying to build her for.
Yeah, I know there were some concerns on the forums looking at some of the numbers that were in the patch notes that this was a buff to Galilea. It is not a buff to Galilea. We are really pulling a lot her broad versatility down. Really is going to require her to play a lot more in her Desecration, in her Corruption area for those stacking advantages, and a lot less advantage on the run with her. So we're going to see a lot of skill. She'll lose a lot of the mobility. Still should be powerful and viable. There's still some. Also heard some people that have played with her last night that are worried that maybe we took a step too far. If we did, I'll just say this: that we'll certainly watch that. We'll look for that. We don't want to ever make a character non-viable, certainly. But it might be time for Galilea not to be God tier for a month or two. So I think we could all agree with that. Let's give it up to some other characters and bring that in. And we'll look at ways that, what we've done, and we'll see how you guys play and what you come out with that, and be sure that we get her hopefully to a good balanced middle.
Cool. Nice. Now let's check out a cool kid here. Oh, he looks so cool.
Yeah, just a couple of things on Kid Ultra. I think we're kind of going long here. I'm just trying to speed it up a little bit. Just honestly, Kid Ultra, again, one of our DLC support characters that had a lot of damage, intentionally, probably a little bit more than we want, especially in some areas. So his Rocket Gauntlet, Rocket Vortex, we're bringing the damage down a little bit to bring him more in line with what we would expect from a support character. Bola Snare also deals less damage to additional targets, so it's going to be a lot harder to chain that damage to minion waves or to grouped up players. And we reduce pain compliance damage down just a little. Well, basically, I was going to say just a little bit, but we halved it. Again, all along the run, we're just bringing his damage way down. Still support, still going to be pretty good at damaging and doing a little bit of light control in there, but trying to keep him firmly in the support camp and no longer as a primary attacker. We have other characters for that. You should probably look at Wrath, who has swords. So
literal actual swords.
Moving on.
Yep. Perfect. And one of the ladies that is going to have a really cool gold skin, if you're a part of the Founders Pack, But this is her in her kind of red, super, super awesome glory. Melka.
Yeah, just a small tweak in Melka in this patch. She's still a character that we're watching a lot. I know a lot of you have been with us as we've made some changes with Melka this spring, trying to get her in a place where she has a little bit more than a kind of a one-trick pony in the way she was being played, right around kind of before the winter update. And so we're still watching her and looking at that. We certainly want to be sure that she's fun, that she's enjoyable. We've heard a lot of concerns that she, while she's kind of effective, she's not as much fun. Those are all things that we pay attention to. We're listening to you. We're listening to your ideas. John, talk a little bit about what this change does for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's relatively minor. The only real thing you'll notice, if at all, is going to be when you're shooting targets at longer ranges, it's going to be similar to the damage that, say, Caldarius was doing. It used to be that she was the only character that had a different damage fall-off scheme than other characters that used, bullet-type weapons. So it was more of just kind of a bug fix and a correction, but it's a small tweak to how she's played.
Getting her back to an ability standard before we look at other kind of corrective adjustments with her to do something exciting with her. So still looking at her, still watching her, guys. I still want to see you play it and talk about Melka. But some small things just to get. We're doing a lot of this kind of. I think we do a little bit of this every update. We find things that are like, oh man, I don't know why we set this up that way, but it's a similar ability to the character, but it behaves completely differently. And we've been trying to standardize a lot more, so we can be a lot more diligent about actually tuning balance across the board in certain ways. So,
cool.
Next,
this big old dude. Where did he go?
I think we're on a little bit of delay with what
there
we're saying.
We go. Perfect.
Montana changes again.
Look at him.
Montana's had a really great run for the last 2 or 3 months. Again, he's always been kind of with he's a big guy with a big gun. We expect him to be a defender. He looks like that. He plays like that. He's got a lot of survivability, especially if you build up Augs that add health and shields to him. But his gun, as we kind of made Snipe Tana, one of my favorite builds of Snipe Tana, he might have gone a little bit overboard with Snipe Tana. And also, he had a couple of odd abilities that could allow him to kind of one-shot other players. So a lot of the corrective action here, without going into a lot of detail with him, you can get that in the patch notes and talk to us on the forum on there, is we're removing some abilities. Again, the damage cap, 750 to big payback. Big payback had conditions where it could one-shot other characters. It's certainly not what we wanted. And increased heat generation, it's going to require a little bit more management of Montana's heat now to get the maximum damage, which is going to effectively lower his damage output a little bit. It might make it a little bit more interesting for you to take abilities that reduce heat generation. And actually, there's certain types of gear that reduce heat generation, right? It's
reload speed.
Reload speed gear. If you didn't know this, is a pro tip.
Really?
Reload speed gear on Montana actually slows his heat generation.
Huh.
So you might want to think about that if you really want to play I'm constantly shooting Montana again. Maybe you want to go look for reload speed gear now and stack that up. Good. And then reduce the accuracy of his Weatherman. Again, has kind of a sniping ability a little bit. Just means he can't quite 100% accurately headshot you from across the map anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to miss a few of those shots, but hopefully we'll bring him back where we want him to be.
Awesome.
Next,
and I believe this is last but certainly not least, Arendi.
So I made this statement a couple of times on the forum, and I'm going to make it here. Arendi is my main, and she's a lot of fun. And Arendi, again, has had a really great 2 or 3 months. I mean, she's been very, very strong. I think a lot of people, there's been a lot of debate. I've read many of the arguments that said that Arendi was already in a good place. Why did you buff her some more? And when we look at statistics, what we really saw with Arendi is that late game Arendi, depending on Pillar Storm, was very, very potent. Early mid-game Arendi was like, yeah, I need to get to late game Arendi. That's kind of where you were. And we want to make sure our characters are fun, the entire game and have a place in that. So with the winter update and a couple of patches after that, we made some corrections on Arendi to bring her damage up, to do some different ways. We changed out the Let's Pounce ability for an ability that gets her attack speed on her main attack up, and really gives Arendi, to be kind of a big damage dealer, a glass cannon. The ability to do that. And it worked very well. I know some of you are Let's Pounce is not coming back anytime soon. There's a lot of mobility on a tiny character with a lot of damage output, and it's really dangerous for her to have that. It was always kind of outside the intent there, so I don't think we're going to be seeing that. I did take and use Let's Pounce, and yes, I cried a little tear for that. It's better for the game, though, that we do that, so we're sticking with that. What we've done is just reduce her attack damage a little bit here. Chaos Boat's coming down by 10%. You're barely going to feel it, but it's going to be statistically important to matches. And then a big nerf on Pillar Storm. Before, you could kind of, as a Rindy, everything in front of you, I think literally at a 180-degree angle.
360.
Oh, was it 300?
Yeah, it was a straight up radius around a Rindy.
So a radius around, everything around a Rindy when she Pillar Storm, got the Pillar Storm, and if characters, and the full-size pillars on that, again, they would overlap. She could do ridiculous amounts of damage, whole team wipes and all that.
Yeah, we're getting some mixed results on this change in the chat, by the by.
Yeah, this change is definitely going to bring Pillar Storm back into a place that's going to require some more skill. It's going to make it a little bit more conditional use of it. But it's still going to be pretty powerful. There's still a potential that in the right cases of groupings, it's going to have the same damage output that it did before. But what you're really going to need is teams stacked on each other in a very narrow cone. It actually uses the paradigm shift. Right. Really not. It's not really even a cone. It's more of a lane kind of in front of her. Right. Yeah. It's a mild cone right in front of her. So you're going to have to aim it a little bit more and be more precise in that. And then everything hidden there is going to get that. We've also reduced the radius on the Shadowfire pillars and the Pillar Storm, which means it's a less chance that you're going to get 3 or 4 of those pillars overlapping, except in really, really close-knit situations on that. So still a lot of potential there. Still a big ability there, but no longer quietly again a planet ender.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Jonathan, do you want to hang out and talk about some scoreboard and gear?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, especially gear. I mean, it's kind of his thing. So that'd be cool.
Yeah. You're kind of the big gear guy.
So really quickly, let's go through a couple of the other changes that we have. That's a high level. There's some more details in the patch notes for the character changes, and you guys are looking at. And this is actually not a list. There's some other bug fixes we did to the characters and quality of life stuff we did. Those are all listed in the patch notes. We didn't go through all those today. There's over 100 changes that we did for balance and number tweaking and all of that. You can see the full details in the patch notes.
Excellent. So one sort of big thing, we're going to bring this up full screen so we can kind of talk around this, is major changes to the scoreboard.
I wouldn't say major, but we introduced, so Incursion is a mode, our most popular mode, has an interesting dilemma. It's a very easy mode to tie in with the way the scoring works. You take a sentry down, you're at 50 points. It's very common to end an Incursion game with both teams taking one sentry down, which means that when we hit the time limit at 30 minutes, we have to have a tiebreaker mechanic. Now, Incursion's always had tiebreaker mechanics, but we tried to find some ways to make tiebreaker mechanics work so that you as a community could actually understand those and work toward them if you were afraid that you were going to end Incursion in the game of tie.
Cool.
So basically what happened with the winter update is the tiebreaker mechanic became any main stat on the front page scoreboard in-game. Basically, if you bring up the scoreboard in-game, that page of stats right there, were statistics that were used to evaluate the tiebreaker. Basically, the team that won most of the category of statistics is the team that won the match if it went to a tiebreaker. Now, unfortunately, there were a couple of oddities with that. One is that some of the stats that we were using were not necessarily the ideal stats to use for those modes. So one of the changes we've made is we went back, Scott Velasquez, one of our senior programmers, and I went through and looked at all the modes and changed up some of the stats that are used to evaluate that. So I believe here you've got an Incursion map, which now is kill, deaths, assists, always there. Minion kills is back up, very important. Shards collected, a big metric of success in our game. Objects built, which are all the buildables, which makes a big difference on that. And then damage dealt is one of that. So those are going to be the definitive stats you play against. Gone away are like healing given and damage taken, which are a little bit more subjective in how they contribute to the game. So we wanted to move that out. But this is what's going to be. The other thing is we found out we just flat out had a couple of bugs. And yes, I've seen the screenshot you guys have posted in the forums. We're like, we totally won that match, but it totally said we were defeated. We're sorry. We had some bugs in the system that we hope that we've now all worked through on that, so you should see more consistent results with that. We aren't ready to abandon this tiebreaker system yet. As long as we have a high potential for ties and Incursion, we're going to have it. We're going to have to keep it there, but we are looking at ways to improve it, and really what we would like to work to over time is less tying. Let's admit, what we really love is to defeat the other team by a crush, but there's a careful balance between snowballing to a crush, which means that all the matches get out of control, there's no comeback potential, and balancing the amount of ties there. So it's a kind of a careful balance in Incursion. We're looking for good ways of that, and we're always listening and looking at your suggestions and evaluating those, so we appreciate the feedback.
Great, and let the record show that GBX Mare was totally on her way to steamrolling me in this match during this particular screenshot. Credit where credit is due.
Well, it is a Rindy versus Reyna.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
Which is, Rindy's my girl, so my thing. I don't know. Oh, Rindy's a girl. Rindy is definitely female. She identifies as a female Veramorph.
Excellent, cool.
I've never gone into gender and Veramorphs before. That would probably be an interesting essay sometime.
I'm definitely
something you and
looking
Dante
forward
can
to
get
some
into.
sort of
maybe a
sort of like a
lore
lore.
update there.
Oh yeah, like total lore. I mean, that lore could be its own stream. Wink, nudge.
So a couple of mode updates. We want to just some light tweaks here. One of the biggest things is incursion. We basically put a new logic chip in the Sentry. Sentry's had some rework on its AI. Just sums up, Sentries are a lot more lethal now. They're going to find targets faster. They're going to retarget a lot faster, and they're going to do a little bit more damage. Generally, watch out for Sentries. Be careful for that, because if you're a person who loved to dive the enemy Sentry because you thought that they ignored you before, well, they're going to pick you up a lot more often now, and you're going to take some damage there. So watch out. We also dealt with the scaling on really basically all of the minions, Thrall Crushers, super minions in both Incursion and Meltdown. Why don't you walk us through that a little bit, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, the main goal there is that minions were already scaling up every 2 minutes, just your base minion waves. And so as the game went on, Thrall and super minions became less effective. And so, we want those to continue to be defining
changers,
moments.
yes. Right.
Yeah, you want those
moments
to be a big thing. When somebody, makes a push and takes, middle Thrall and then pushes on your base, you should feel it. It shouldn't be something that, your regular minion wave sweeps aside the Thrall because, it's late in the game. Like that should have an impact. And so that's really the goal of having those things scale up now as well. And Meltdown, same thing. Super minions should continue to be effective. I know there's already some concern that we've played into the already super minion heavy meta of Meltdown matches, and that's something that we're definitely going to have to continue to watch. But I think there's a lot of room for adjustment there that I think we can find a sweet spot.
Great.
Excellent. Cool. Now. Okay. See, I made the mistake of saying the words lore stream, and now that's gonna have to be a thing that happens. What do you think, Randy? Would you?
Oh
be
yeah,
down
we
for
could
that?
totally do that. I'd love to do a lore stream again. It's been I think I promised a lot more story time with Jithri this year, and we haven't done another since I do it. So I would love to do a live story time with Jithri, and we'll bring Blaine and Toby and let them help us.
Of course.
Let's talk a little bit about gear changes, because again, they're along with a lot of fixes and tweaks. You've already mentioned. By the way, two of the big community ones we've touched, Bola's Target Finder and the Borrowed Timer have both gotten some adjustments on that.
Yep.
But really quickly, I'm going to let Jonathan in a second talk about those specific changes. But let me tell you what's happened generally. One of the things that we've heard from you is legendary gear is kind of really weird. It's across the board, and it has this weird power, but it was always, I believe, 1,800 shards to activate previously, regardless of what item level it was. It was different than any other classification of gear, right? All other gear had prices that scaled based on whether it was more powerful. Higher eye level means better stats, but also more cost. And it was one of those kind of self-balancing aspects of the Battleborn gear system. But for whatever reason, I think we've had a couple of discussions. I was trying to remember why we decided to lock in legendaries at launch. We thought that was a great idea. And in this patch, where we reconsidered that, looked at it, and what we've done is we've opened that back up. So legendaries will now behave like the rest of the gear system. Lower item level, less powerful legendaries will have lower gear cost, and the more powerful ones will now have higher gear costs. There's actually a range. I think it spans now from about 1,400 to 1,800, somewhere thereabouts. So you'll see a wider range in legendary costs. And now we have a lot more ability to use that cost variance on a legendary per legendary basis as a balance adjustment for the legendary now.
Right.
Also, another note on that, all character legendaries, so the lore legendaries you get from completing character lore challenges, are all now max roll. So they were all eye level 50 rolls. They were 50% rolls before. They're all going to get now a little bit more potent. And I think in that we did vary the price on those as well. The activation cost on those as well, right?
Yep.
So you're going to see some adjustment there. We'll be looking at those and hearing what you guys say about that. Now give us a little update on Target Finder and Bolas. And Borrowed Timer.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so the main changes for Bolas that you're going to see are that now it only affects skill damage rather than amplifying all damage done. The activation cost, this is actually one of the first, you mentioned that we can now tune, piece by piece, have offsets that increase the activation costs for certain items, it's in the first wave of items that had their activation costs increased along with scaling now. So I think like a max roll Bolus target finder should be about 1970, I think is what it ends up coming out as its activation cost. The other thing that we noticed is that damage amp was applied very easily by some characters. There's actually a fantastic channel in one of the Discords called Will It Bolas. Fascinating, great people doing a lot of awesome testing. Really digging into different aspects of characters and figuring out just crazy edge cases. So something that we've changed with this patch for Bolus Target Finder is you now have to trip a minimum damage threshold with a skill before it applies that damage. So you can't just tickle somebody with something that's technically a skill and get it to proc the Bolus Target Finder damage amp. Now you have to really hit them with an actual skill usage in order to make that happen. Borrowed Timer, that one's a little bit more straightforward. It had its price increased, and now it has a 2-minute internal cooldown instead of a 1-minute internal cooldown.
Yeah. So, and there's already a great question in the chat about the character lore legendaries. Is the change to max roll retroactive? Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Because you can only ever get those once from completing them in your character lore challenges. We don't want those stats to ever be variable, because that would mean some people would just completely get screwed over. We actually had that when we launched the game, and I think those of you who have been with us right from the beginning remember there was a really early patch where we snapped them all to the same roll, and now this one, yes, they will all move. So if you already have those legendaries, take another look at them. Their stats have changed. I'll call out Lowlines, Lowly Dev. There's a great site out there that you guys can find. He has, I think, all of the legendaries out there. I'm sure he'll be data mining us very soon and putting all the stats out there, which you can compare them and look at the numbers out there and see what those are. So, damage threshold to proc Bolus? That's a good question.
I honestly don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, I'm afraid.
we'll see if we can look that up and post it in a forum somewhere. So that'll be a good one to dig back down in. All right.
Awesome.
Is that it for gear changes?
Yep, that is it for gear changes. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for helping us out today. We're going to go ahead and switch you out for Community Coordinator Meredith Hershey. And we're going to zoom through some quality of life changes, some new features including Flair, loot, and finishers, as well as what is next in Battleborn.
Yeah.
We'll be
Good
right
job,
back.
John. And we're back.
And we are back.
And I'm back.
And so's Meredith. Excellent. So another cool thing that happened as a result of this update this is probably one of the biggest updates that we've had.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the different types of patches we have. We kind of do our weekly micro patches, but this is definitely a major patch update where we make a lot of changes to the game. We have to store up some of the things, so the changes. So yeah, there's, like I said, over 100 statistical changes and kind of quality of life changes and bug fixes of the game, as well as some new systems added to the game, and certainly there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes to make something like a free trial happen, and to deal with all of that, there's a lot of really technical, unsexy stuff that we have to do to make that happen. And there's literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of development time that goes into that, and it takes a while to do that. We're going to walk you through all of that, but there is a lot of that in this update as well. So
yes.
We want to look at just kind of some quick
just some sort of general quality of life updates. If we can get a little bit of a selection on top of the PowerPoint. please, so that we may move forward. There's a lot in here, and a lot that sort of, you know, get to the quality of life. And a lot of this stuff we've already gone over, including like being able to check out skins and taunts in the dojo, stuff like that.
Yeah, a couple of little things to call out here. You know, again, a lot of bug fixes and changes. Dojo, all skins and taunts. Command rank, we just wanted you to be a lot more persistent throughout as you're navigating in and out of the command menu and other places, that you can see your command rank and the amount of credits and platinum that you have in your currency there, always on top, and also what boosts you have active and are running. We wanted to make that, because we've seen a lot of people with the last update buying and playing with boosts, and we wanted to make that a lot easier to find and to understand there. So that's there. Also, people have been asking about what are we doing about levers and penalties for quitting. We've had penalties for quitting matches for a long time. If you leave a match in progress, you don't get any credit for anything in that match. You don't get any. You don't get any of the credits you would earn. You don't get any of the challenge or statistics you would earn on that. We take all the rewards away from you. You have to be there at that end of match screen to get that reward. So we've always done that. We've come just short of like applying time and ban penalties for that. You know, we look at the reporting system and certainly do that. One of the things we've done is if you're quitting early, we just added a little bit of a spam dialogue message in there. If you actually try to go quit, we basically scold you a little bit, and we tell you, and we let you know that, hey, you're letting your team down. Your team needs you. You're leaving your team, and by the way, you're going to lose all your rewards. And we're making that super clear. Hopefully that we can just communicate a little bit more to let you know that don't quit matches. Play all the way through. Be a good teammate, even if you're losing. You know, if you're losing and you have to get out, you know, use that surrender vote and do that. But hang out, quit, earn your stripes, and be a good team member. Yeah. Bots Battle, challenge progression fixes is one of the most asked about things. You know, people who play Bots Battle and are trying to finish up their lore challenges. Yeah, we had some problems that some of the lore challenges weren't correctly triggering off of bots. Some of the bots you killed weren't giving you player kill stats for that. It was never intended. We fixed, we think, most of those issues now. If you guys see it anymore, we certainly want to hear about it in the forums, and we'll queue that up for a fix pretty aggressively. But we think we've got most of that, and you should be able to go to Bots Battle and still move on those lore challenges. And of course, we changed Atticus Rank 20 title to Atticus.
Of course, and that's probably the most important fix.
I think so.
Without a doubt.
I believe so.
Excellent question about the sort of penalties. What if somebody disconnects and that's how they're removed from the match?
Well, if you disconnect, we're sorry. You also are not going to get any rewards for the match. It comes out technically that there's not a lot of ways that we can distinguish between your internet going out and you unplugging your internet cable to disconnect from a match. There are a lot of clever people out there who circumvent systems like this, and so it's kind of a, we're sorry, we hope that you don't have connection failures. If you do, you only lose the rewards for that match, but you do lose the rewards for that match. So queue up again, get back in there and try it again.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, if you do disconnect, you can rejoin. You can rejoin a match.
Yes.
And if you rejoin the match, even if you were disconnected for a period of time, you can rejoin the match. If you come back in there and play through the end, you will get rewards on that. I think you do amortize the amount of rewards you have for actually your time contribution to the match. So if you're saying, I'm going to start at the end, I'm going to disconnect, come at the, start at the beginning, disconnect, come at the end, you're not going to get all of the rewards on that.
Yeah.
You get credit for what you do. You know, you still have to have playtime in there. So don't think you're going to do that either.
Anthony wanted to make sure we mentioned that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Anthony actually says, "What's wrong with Varnell?" So many things are wrong with me, and trying to. I'm actually trying to talk less right now so we can get through the update, because I know there's been a lot of talking here. Yeah. But
there's
there we
a whole bunch, and here are some more kind of quality of life things.
Small things. I'll let you guys read through those. Just again, small little things, quality of life. There are a lot more of those talked about the patch notes. I'll let you guys read through those. If you have any questions, we can answer those later on the forum.
Of course, and it's just all kind of little tweaks in order to basically make your entire Battleborn experience just all that much better.
Yeah, almost every one of these comes from things that we hear commonly from the forums and from Reddit, from social media and other places like that. So keep the feedback coming. We do listen, and we do use it to adjust our priorities.
Yeah, and in addition to those adjustments, we even have some really cool new things. I'm gonna go ahead and just let this just breathe for a second.
So we have our first round of a brand new system we're calling Gear Flair. And honestly, I've heard a lot of different people talking about it. It's hats, it's ears, it's crowns, it's all sorts of things. But it's a system of additional cosmetic wearables that are attached to gear that you can get. This is an example of different characters wearing that. Certainly that Founder's Crown that we talked about earlier is a piece of that. Do we have another slide where we talk about the details here before I jump into it, or do I just need to start talking?
Just talk while people look at the pretty pictures. Ernest and Cat Ears is kind of driving me nuts.
Here's how Flair works. Every time you open a loot pack with gear in it, the gear has a small chance to have Flair attached to it. So every gear that drops in a loot pack has a chance to have Flair on it. It's a small chance, but it is there, so you can get it. It's random which piece of gear you get and which Flair goes in that piece of gear. So you'll have to kind of go fish around and look to find the right combinations of things that you like. I think it's cool because Battleborn is a gear game, and while it's fairly easy to get a competent versus set of gear without a lot of hours of play, we wanted to give veteran players something to really aspire to and hope for in a longer gear collection on that. So we really wanted to let you guys play around with that and get some cool stuff. If you really want Gear Flair, there's another thing we'll talk about in a second, the Magnus Pack, where we're going to be a new type of pack that guarantees Flair.
Yeah.
Flair shows up on your character when you activate the gear in the match, which means that zero cost stuff like the Shard of Solus Legendary that we're giving out is really cool because you'll have that Flair from the very beginning of the match. There are essentially 3 categories of Flair. There are hats, there are horns, and there are ears right now.
Yes.
You can generally have one of each category visible on the character at the same time.
Right, so you can have ears and horns
ears, horn, hat
and hats
available on the character. Some of the characters are some kind of weird ones. Some like these characters, the Flair looks really cool on. Isaac, the hats show up on top of his canopy, and so.
And people were asking about Eldragon and what happens. Is there something on top of the crown, below the crown? How does that work?
Basically, it's a crown on a crown, so it's crownception. So there are some places like that where it looks pretty cool, and there are some places we may have a couple of Flair positions that we need to tweak. But this is a new system. It's a new, and I know there is a lot of discussion out of that. There are a lot of comments on that. We'd definitely love to hear your feedback, but generally, we think this is a cool, fun, aesthetic, cosmetic system that you guys can engage in and play with, and it's something we would love to kind of tweak and improve over time and grow as we continue with Battleborn.
Awesome, and it is super, super dope looking, as you can see, and very, very fun.
Yeah. So go ahead and next slide. We talked about how do you get Flair. Of course, anytime you open a pack, you can get a new piece of Flair. But if you want to guarantee that you get Flair, the Founders Pack that we gave you all for free today guarantees a piece of Flair in it. And the new Magnus Packs are new Platinum-only packs that you can buy in the shop that guarantee pieces of Flair. But Magnus Packs are essentially like the core packs. They offer 1, I think, rare or better item and 2 common or better items, with the exception that they all guarantee that you're going to get Flair. Magnus Pack also will guarantee that you get 1 of the skins and taunts that were previously from the set in all of the loot packs, so we're now calling those common skins and taunts, and a small percentage chance that you're going to get 1 of the premium skins or taunts from honestly a whole set of premium skins and taunts in the game. So Magnus Packs are kind of cool. You're always going to get some exclusive aesthetics on there. And it's a way to buy into that and really get a lot of different types of Flair. So if you're really into that and really want to spend some time on getting those Flairs, that's a way to do that.
Yeah.
But of course, any pack you open in the game right now has a chance to generate items of Flair on it. It's a little bit lower, but you can certainly fish for Flair that way and go looking for it. So.
And for those that were really, really into the skins that we used in the character slides,
they are also in the Magnus Pack.
Yeah.
So the red, white, and yellow skins, the cool ones you saw in the character slides, there's a new set of skins in there in the Magnus Pack. Just an additional award to sweeten that pack up a little bit more.
Awesome.
Op-specific Commanders Packs. This is kind of a small-ish change that we made. Basically, if you were playing Operations before and trying to get that 100 Ops points to get the Commanders Pack, to try to get the exclusive rewards there, you had a random chance to get any Ops reward from any other Op. So you could play Toby's Op, but get the legendaries from the Montana and the Demon Bear Op.
Huh.
So what we've done with this is now there is a Montana and the Demon Bear Commander Pack.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so you will only get the legendaries for the faction of that. So if you're really looking for specific legendaries, you run a specific op, get a specific set of ops points, a little bit more agency in players' hands to get exactly what they want out of the legendaries and to go fight for those.
Excellent. Very, very cool. Another cool thing, I mean, you have Flair, you have these awesome new skins that you can get via the Magnus Pack, but you also have these, oh no, I've gone too far. I've revealed too much. I revealed too much.
I don't know what that hoop is.
Yes, there is another thing. May have to manually play this bad boy. It is a video on another really cool thing that you can do to spice up your look a little bit, and these are finishers.
Right, it's a fun little boost that we've added to the game that gives you a chance if you are, especially someone who gets a lot of kills, you can add that little bit of fun to the end of the kill. We've got 4 different types of finishers in the game. We've got one that does fireworks here. We've got one that does there's another fireworks there. One that does dead fish falling around your enemy. One that does a disco ball, and another one that sends hearts and love around. I think here you have
Dandy and Whiskey Foxtrot,
Dandy and
of course.
Whiskey killing each other with love. Just a way to send that thanks, Whiskey. That extra little bit of stuff. There's Alani with the dead fish. Cleese getting some dead fish on him there. Again, just a fun little way. Again, those are premium purchases only in the boost. A boost will last for 24 hours from the time that it's activated. So you go in, you activate it, you'll see the boost counter down there at the top, and every kill that you get in the game when you have the boost running will show this kind of flare or this kind of a finisher effect around the death effect that used to be just the red beam before, and now it has a little bit of extra around it.
Yeah.
So,
and shout out to Sung.
Yep, Sung Kim, who did a lot of the work on this and a lot of work with the Flair system, helping us with the models and the ideas and stuff there. Again, super badass dude. I really love him.
Yeah, and then if for some reason, I'm feeling the hearts, but maybe, I have the hearts activated and it's the 4th of July and maybe now I want some fireworks. Can I just activate fireworks and just sort of switch those out, or do I have to wait for my hearts to run out? How does that work?
I'm trying to remember. I had the answer to this when we were designing the system about a month ago.
I actually have the answer to this.
Meredith has the answer.
Boom.
Yes, because when Elisa and I were making this video, we did it all in one go. So if you decide to switch over to a different finisher, it will actually add on to the time of its activation.
So it adds the time together, but it will change the finisher.
Yeah, it'll override the previous finisher, but instead of like 24 hours, if you decide you pick hearts and then you immediately want to switch to fireworks or whatever, then it will add the
Then you'll have 48 hours of fireworks rather than 24 hours of hearts and 24 hours of fireworks. So it's always whichever one you activate last is what's active, but the time is added together.
So select your seasonal finishes accordingly is basically how that works. So finishers are awesome, Flair is awesome, loot packs are awesome. All of these changes are amazing, as well as the new player experience. But what's next?
Ooh, I wonder.
So we still have a few things coming up, and we'll let you guys know that we're still working on content and still have some things that are going on. Internally, we kind of had a little bit of a internal competition for making some different variants of modes and maps. So we've got a couple that while they're probably not as big of a mode as Incursion or Meltdown, they're really fun. And these come in the forms. They're gonna appear more like Chaos Rumble and a few of those other weekend queues. But these actually have unique maps associated with them. So there'll be temporary queues that'll come up and play. They're really weird. They're really fun, and we hope that you like them. They're a really different way to experience the game. So you're going to see kind of 2 videos here. This one right here that's coming up with the lava down below is a mode called Tank Yankers. And it's a crazy name for crazy mode. Basically, we're going to limit you to Galt, Shane and Aurochs, Montana, and Boulder. It's grabbing and dashing. There's a single capture point. It's basically a capture mode. You're trying to get it. But your character damage resistance is so high, you're not going to be able to kill one another with normal means. You either have to pull or knock one another into the lava below to kill. So Tank Yankers is going to be a fun way just to kind of grab and dash your way to success. And the other mode you see up there, the one in the air, is a mode called Rocket Brawl. It is locked exclusively to Benedict.
What?
We have dramatically amped up the damage and lowered the cooldowns of your abilities. So Benedict flies all the time. Again, it's kind of a capture mode. There's kind of these 3 roosts through the map. And rockets will pretty much one-shot other Benedicts in the air. So it's a really fun kind of rocket arena rumble just with Benedict, a way to get in the game and try that out. Those are going to be coming out in the upcoming weeks. We have a schedule on them. You'll watch the battle plans for that. But again, kind of fun, crazy modes that we'll get for a little bit. We'll throw in to mix up a weekend and let people play around with.
Yeah. And there is one more thing that we're not going to talk about today, but we may talk about at a later date, that starts with an S and rhymes with a...
And ends with a supercharge.
And ends with a supercharge. stay posted on news on that particular thing. There is so much here that, you know, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there might be another special stream coming up for that particular tasty
For
bit.
those of you in the community that know what Supercharge is, it is another mode that we have coming up. I'm not going to tell you any more details than that. You already know a few of them. We'll show that. We really want to give it the feature that it deserves, and there was so much in this update that we didn't want to throw Supercharge on top of that. It's not out yet. We'll be out soon, and when we do, we'll give you a lot more details about that. But it's a cool, brand new mode that will show up and give you another way to play Battleborn. We think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. So stay tuned for more info on that. So one thing that we kind of want to do before we go is to kind of talk a little bit about some kind of key members of the Battleborn community and kind of ways that we're kind of giving back to them as well as to other members of the community as well.
So we have, we showed you earlier the new Founders title that came out that was, again, the full bar title. We wanted to commemorate one of our tournaments this spring, the Choctaw tournament that we had, I think, in end of February, beginning of March. It's been a while now.
Yeah, early March.
And our two final teams, Dunk Squad and Lost Heroes, I think I need to add an S to that title. I may have messed that up in the game. Lost Heroes are awesome two teams that contended there. And they're both going to get these two exclusive titles just for the team members who place first and second in that team.
That's awesome.
And the characters that are actually silhouetted there in the background are actually the characters that they played as those teams in the final match.
Oh, that's cool.
There.
Very
so again,
cool.
they'll be that. If you see these guys wearing this around, and the kind of roughly the color of their jerseys. Now, I did talk to some of the Lost Heroes people yesterday, and they didn't actually get to pick the colors on this. So I'm sorry, my taste in colors is sometimes kind of bad. I'll be making an adjustment with that with the next major patch. So we'll see this title change up a little bit. But we not only want to celebrate them, but we want to celebrate how the community has rallied around these teams and has rallied around our other competitive. I know there's several, like the Helix Gamers League and several other tournament competitions that are going on right now. You guys can watch those on the forums and other places. And we want to celebrate those things. So you're going to see the first round of that. So next slide, I think, we've got some shift codes.
Hooray!
So if you like Dunk Squad or Lost Heroes, you can now, unlimited time, pledge your allegiance to either Dunk Squad or Lost Heroes by getting the Dunkster or the Hero Found title.
That's awesome.
You can have both of them and switch them up as you want, but these are, again, really cool full bar titles. Dunk Squad, of course, I had to put Eldragon on there for Dr. Ho-Ho. And for Lost Heroes, who, man, really did some amazing Caldarius work in the tournament. One of the most lethal Caldarius plays I've ever seen. So really great work there. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys for being great teams and having great fan bases, and we want to give the whole community a little bit of a celebration on that with these cool new name tags.
Yeah, so there you go. And then for those of you who might have missed the stream, or for those of you that might be joining in super late, how dare you? But we will be posting these codes on social sometime after the stream is over so that everybody can have a shot.
I believe the plan is to include them in this week's battle plan, so keep an eye out for that.
So there you go, the battle plan, which can be found on the
Gearbox forums. And while I'm at it, if you guys have any questions that we didn't answer about the free trial, the update, anything that we've been messaging out on our various channels today, you can go to our social channels. You can go to Gearbox social channels, so Twitter, Facebook, the Battleborn Twitter and Facebook, the forums, the websites, and there should be a wealth of information for you to dig into. So yeah, just keep an eye out for those, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us directly on the forums. So
yeah. Excellent. And last but not least, we want to provide some shout outs to folks that have provided so much love and so much support within the community and have made Battleborn what it is throughout this last year and will continue to be an amazing source of support beyond. So shout outs to...
Yeah, again, all these guys, Lowlines, MentalMars, and Asney, Jozo's, Bea, Cat Cornet, Solo Scientist, Dunk Squad and Lost Heroes, of course, and Battleborn Dev Team.
The entire Battleborn Dev Team, we love you! Woo!
So, but community, thank you guys so much for sticking with us. I hope you appreciate all of the Founders Awards that we've given out to you, and we hope to see some good new players jumping into the Battleborn universe with all of us very shortly.
Awesome. Well, this has been a marathon and a half, but I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Community Coordinator Meredith Hershey, GBX Mayor, for holding it down in the chat and answering questions. I want to thank Randy Varnell, Creative Director of Battleborn, for speaking for literally 2 hours straight.
Sorry.
About everything. I want to give a special shout out to GBX Menace, Sean, holding it down, Best Isaac, NA, sitting back there, pushing all of the buttons that make us look like we know what we're doing. Shout out to Jonathan Carruthers, who was here earlier. Shout out to Anthony Nicholson, who has been bombarding us with messages about Alani the entire 2-hour stream. Shout out to the Battleborn dev team, who is hard at work right now, making sure that this awesome launch and awesome new experiences is great for everybody. So on behalf of the entire team here at Gearbox Software, I've been new media manager Elisa Rockdock. Thank you so much for joining us. Please enjoy your experience. We will see you online, in the forums, on social media, and more importantly, we'll see you. And let's go save Solus, shall we?
For Solus.
For Solus.
For Solus!
Dear Diary, you know, when I'm in stealth mode, I secretly watch MentalMars' videos. It's kind of like UPR training, only without all the push-ups and screaming.